In our last video, we defined copywriting as a profession. In this video, we're going to establish what the attributes of an effective copywriter are, and hopefully give you the insights you need to develop them for yourself. There are 10 characteristics that are key to effective copywriting. First, you must be curious. An effective copywriter asks questions and genuinely wants to know the answers. This allows you to delve deep into whatever you're writing to find the key point that's most likely to convince the audience to take the action you want. A curious copywriter is able to search for a new angle that no one has thought of before. It allows you to create creative copy that will ultimately convince the audience of something they've never considered before. Most importantly, curiosity makes copywriting a job you can love. Without a genuine lust for learning new things, not to mention a healthy tolerance for research, it's easy to get bogged down by everything you're required to learn in order to convey your message knowledgeably. Curiosity makes your job fun, a fact that it translates to effective copy. You must be passionate. Just like curiosity, passion is the key to creating copy that engages the audience. If you are bored, you aren't likely to grab anyone else's attention. You need to be genuinely excited and passionate about what you're writing in order to convey that same passion to others. Passion is contagious. If you love what you're writing about, others will too. You may think it isn't always possible, especially if you wouldn't otherwise care about your subject. But passion can be cultivated. And to be a good copywriter, you must learn to cultivate passion for any subject. A reader knows if you don't care. And if you don't care, neither will they. You need to be able to passionately believe in anything you're selling, at least for the amount of time you're creating the copy. You must be humble. A humble copywriter knows that nothing is perfect the first time around, and that even they create bad copy from time to time. The difference between a good copywriter and a bad one is that a good copywriter is humble enough to admit the problem, changing it so the final product is effective. Humility allows you to admit you're wrong and change tactics to move on to another strategy that works. Without humility, it's easy to get stuck, mired in copy that doesn't work. It's important to remember also that copywriters don't get credit for their work. For many writers transitioning into copy, this is difficult. But humility makes this lack of a byline easier. You must be self-motivated. Almost all copywriters work independently, so self-motivation is key. A self-motivated copywriter meets deadlines. A copywriter motivated by outside factors quickly burns out and delivers sloppy work. Just as importantly, when you're a self-motivated copywriter, you can push yourself to be better every day and to constantly create better copy. This makes your copy more effective and more powerful because you care about delivering the best copy possible, not copy that's simply passable or almost good enough. You must be versatile. Like we said before, a good copywriter is like a chameleon. You constantly adapt to the situation at hand with incredible versatility. In fact, nothing is more vital in the day-to-day operations of an effective copywriter than versatility. A good copywriter has every kind of versatility. Versatility of form in order to produce the many types of deliverables expected from websites to white papers to tweets. Versatility of voice to adapt to the unique voice and personality of each client, even when adapting this to the format of writing. A tweet by a major software company is likely to need a different voice than a white paper, even when coming from the same company, for example. Versatility of purpose to adapt the desired call to action of each and every piece of copy created. And finally, versatility of style. to develop all of these elements better. A good copywriter is ever-changing. It's impossible to copywrite effectively without versatility. You must be discerning. An effective copywriter is discerning enough to distill any message into its most basic form. Effective copywriting requires taking massive amounts of information and distilling it to a single core message, which you must be able to discern, oftentimes without much guidance. Even more importantly, you must do this while keeping the big picture and ultimate goal in mind at all times. In addition, you must be discerning enough to know when to change course. You must be able to observe what's working and discard any tactics or messaging that's ineffective. This means trusting your tests, of course, but also reading the reactions of key stakeholders and quickly adapting to even the most subtle feedback. Only copy written by observant, discerning copywriters sells. You must be able to discern problems and successes almost immediately and trust this enough to act quickly. You must be imaginative. A copywriter is still a writer who's trying to reach the audience by piquing his interest. This is impossible without imagination, especially when copywriting about a subject that doesn't automatically interest the general public. After all, as Ben Hurt said, there really is no such thing as a boring subject, just boring, unimaginative writers. Imagination is what distinguishes you from your competition and allows the copy to speak to the audience, not as an ad, but as a piece of real interest. Ed McCabe put it well when he said, "Imagination is one of the last remaining legal means you have to gain an unfair advantage over your competition." With imagination, you can overcome typical hurdles and make a difference through what you're writing. Imagination also allows you to come to the best possible idea. It takes a lot of bad ideas to get a great one. It takes imagination to come up with those ideas. When you're working with an old topic, a familiar product, or a saturated market, this is even more important because to make an old idea fresh, it takes a lot of imagination. Imagination is the primary skill of any writer. There's no different ever simply because you're a copywriter. You must be engaging. All copywriting is meant to motivate an action in the reader. This is impossible if you can't engage the audience. An effective copywriter knows how to pull the audience in and keep its attention for as long as you want it. It's important to remember that engagement relies on context. You must be able to innately know not just how to engage the audience based on the context, but also how long you can reasonably do so. An effective copywriter never asks too much of the audience. They know when to stop and ask for the next step. Finally, being engaging as a copywriter requires some of the same skills as being a psychologist. You must learn to relate to anyone, and fast. This means trusting your instincts and building on the skills that you need to create rapport. You must be focused and timely. You can never be a good copywriter unless you can deliver your work in a focused and timely manner. An effective copywriter meets deadlines, both with the client and those that are self-created. Without this discipline, you'll never be able to handle the workload. A good copywriter can quickly churn out quality copy, which requires a high level of focus. Most importantly, an effective copywriter is focused on the goal and does not get distracted until it's achieved. If you can do all this, all the other attributes are likely to fall in place easily. Of course, these 10 qualities alone aren't all the attributes that make an effective copywriter. There are thousands of different skills that you may need to pull from. Here are a couple more attributes to keep in mind. A good copywriter knows when to seek higher levels of perfection versus when a piece is good enough. Perfectionism isn't possible with deadlines. You'll never get a perfect piece of copy. The important thing to know what is actually close enough. A good copywriter knows whom they are writing for at all times. The audience is key. A good copywriter knows when to ask questions. Sometimes you won't understand exactly what a client wants or how a product works. An effective copywriter must be willing to get clarification, whether on the methods or goals, or simply on the issue at hand from a subject matter expert. A good copywriter knows how to handle professional criticism, but also when to stand up for their work. Editing is vital to any copywriting job, and it often requires making adjustments according to what your client needs and wants. You must be able to accept this criticism professionally and gracefully, but you must also know when to defend your work. You are the copywriter, and sometimes you do know best. Be able to explain why you think your way works better. Just be prepared to back down if the client sticks to their guns. A good copywriter knows when and why rules should be broken. Proper grammar is important, but sometimes breaking a rule works for effect, for colloquialism, or simply because sounds better. Know which rules can be broken, and do so carefully. A good writer knows how to beat writer's block. When you write copy for a living, you don't have the luxury to sit around with writer's block. You need to learn to power through and get the job done. In addition, a good copywriter learns the basics of SEO. Will go a long way in making your copy sell online. A good copywriter learns to choose words carefully so that the meaning is clear, using very exact vocabulary for the task at hand. A good copywriter learns to multitask, knowing they must be able to handle many projects at once. A good copywriter learns to borrow tactics from the great copywriters out there, without plagiarizing, but by making it their own. An effective copywriter learns how to give credit where it's due, and to carefully cite sources, even casually online. Finally, a good copywriter learns to listen. Listen to feedback from clients, listen to instructions. Most importantly, listen to the audience and always give them what they want. If you can develop all these attributes, you'll be an excellent, effective copywriter. Essentially, copywriters do the same thing day in and day out. It's simply these attributes that set good copywriting above the rest. As the famous advertiser Howard Gossage once said, "Once a man becomes resigned to making a good living by writing a few words at a time, writing them over and over again in various combinations, he's likely to think of himself as a professional copywriter." But it's those attributes of an effective copywriter that makes those words different in every context. Thanks for listening. I hope you learned a lot. Now you can continue on to our next lesson, knowing the difference between good writing and good copywriting, to learn what makes copywriting different than all other forms of writing.